Today's episode is one of the pandemic self-care Facebook Live conversations I've had early on when the pandemic first hit back in March and April. 36 amazing, beautiful podcast guests who had previously been on the show had joined me for these pandemic self-care live conversations. So I am sharing them now in the audio version. All right. Until next time, remember, be gentle with yourself.
I don't know why.
I know, right? It always says preparing up in the corner. All right, we're live on Facebook. Hey, everybody, it's Teri Wellbrock again, host of the Healing Place podcast. And I'm just so very excited to have with me Jason Lee, who has joined me on the podcast in the past. And I'm just going to shrink some screens here so I can see Jason. There he is. Yeah. And so welcome back, Jason.
Thank you, Teri. It's great seeing you again.
Yeah.
It's been about a year since the last time we spoke.
Has it been a year?
It's been about a year, and I'll tell a story if you remember. I was in Cincinnati, because you're from Batavia, right? Am I saying that?
Yeah.
Batavia. And Ohio, and I was in Cincinnati, and I remember I was staying at the Hilton Hotel, the Netherlands Plaza, which has got this really nice, beautiful Art Deco kind of look from the early 20th century, right? And it just reminded me of the movie The Shining, the hotel, The Shining. So anyway, I was telling my colleagues at the time, I said, man, this hotel kind of creeps me out. Walking down the hallway, I'm just waiting, just two girls pop up at the end of the hallway.
Right.
And then I saw your Facebook post. You happened to be in Colorado visiting the Stanley Hotel, the actual hotel.
Oh my God.
Remember that?
Yes.
You remember that?
I took a picture in front of the door.
You had a picture. So I messaged you, guess what? This is what we were talking about at the very same time. And I remember taking your photo that you were posing from the Stanley Hotel and showing it to my colleagues. It's like, is this creepy or what?
Right.
The same thing. So that was the last time we spoke.
That's crazy. Yeah, so I was in Colorado. That was in July. Yeah.
So has it been? No, not quite a year then.
Yeah, because we went out to see my son who lives out in Denver.
Yeah.
And we toured. We went up to where is that? I'm so drawing a blank on the name. Anyway, it's a beautiful area of Colorado. So we drove up into the mountains and Estes Park. Okay, and the Stanley Hotel is up there. So
and just a piece of trivia, I don't think that's the actual hotel where they filmed.
No, they didn't film it there. They filmed Dumb and Dumber there, I think.
Yeah.
But that was like the inspiration for The Shining.
Yeah.
But they didn't actually film there. So, but when you do the tour, we did the tour, yes, and they talk a lot about
the actual sightings and stuff. And I can't remember the room number, the famous room number.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's cool. That was a nice trip down memory lane, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So tell everybody who didn't listen to our first podcast, who you need to go back and check it out, but who you are and what it is you do.
Yeah, so Jason Lee, local author, and of 2 personal development books now. The first one was titled Living with the Dragon, Healing 15,000 Days of Abuse and Shame. And the second one, which is a little bit more lighthearted, it's called Living with the Cat, the 9 Biggest Reasons Why Your Life Sucks. So I've been a big mental health advocate and for the last probably half a dozen years or so, and really wanted to kind of get out in my community. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, for those who don't know me. And really big on promoting mental health awareness, especially for men in ethnic communities as well. I'm also a public speaker, done some speaking engagements at various conferences and local events, and really want to kind of, again, just encourage people to start talking about their mental health more, and especially guys who find it a little bit more difficult and more challenged to share their feelings, and if they're feeling depressed or anxious and whatnot, and try to just be a leader in that and a voice in that as well. And so hopefully it could lead by example. And my personal history has been, as you know, Teri, has been a childhood abuse survivor. Had some challenges growing up in my home with an abusive family, and older brother with schizophrenia. And those were things that I had a very, very difficult time processing and understanding and accepting for the better part of my adult years. So when I finally kind of came to the realization that all this stuff, all this pain, all this hurt and emotions was pent up in me, and causing me to become this really, really angry person and having
Right.
my own mental health struggles with depression and anxiety, I told myself I needed to change this because at the time I had a young son who was going through some battles with depression and anxiety as well. So I needed to kind of like take that, take whatever was following me from my past and process it, work towards healing it, and be a better example for my son and for other guys out there. So
Yeah.
that's me in a nutshell.
Beautiful. And I love it. And I think I told you recently, I had sent your copies of your books to both of my sons, and one of my sons reached out to me and said, Mom, I started reading that book you sent me. So, and I just was like,
I love that. Yeah, you
yeah,
told me that a few months ago, and I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate it when, whether it's friends or just complete strangers tell me that they've picked up my book to start reading. And it's got nothing to do so much with picking up my book per se, but you know
right,
what that says? It speaks more highly of that individual, suggesting that they're open to change. They're open to ideas about understanding themselves more, right?
right.
It,
Yeah.
it, it means that they're willing to take that next step. If they picked up not just necessarily my book, but a book that's related to mental health, personal development, right?
Yeah, that's a huge step in the right direction when you're finally able to say, you know what, I'm ready to go back into that darkness. I'm ready to go back and at least shine a light onto it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, just kind of
yeah,
get your toes wet a little bit, right? And it's
right.
not easy. I mean, for guys, especially Terry, I've been, during this whole COVID crisis and pandemic, I've been doing a lot of reading and understanding of myself even further, understanding different attachment styles and relationships, for example, and um, like the 21st century man, the modern man, if you want to call it that, has a lot of challenges to face. We're dads, we're brothers, we're husbands, we're entrepreneurs, we're boyfriends, everything, right? And we have all this history to kind of try to live up to be this strong provider. And oftentimes we kind of get lost in the mix. And as a male, I can certainly speak on behalf of a lot of guys. It's that it does put some underlying pressure and stress. It's like, oh, what if I can't fix the kitchen sink? Or what if if I'm unemployed, I'm supposed to be the provider to put food on the table. What if I can't fix that car, right? Which is like me, I can't fix a car if my life depended on it, or even change a faucet, and those kind of underlying pressures can put a lot of stress on a guy. And depending on how they were brought up, it's very difficult for some guys to express their emotions if they were, followed a certain source of attachment style per se, right? Some of them were avoidance, so they avoided a lot of their emotions, and being unable to speak about their emotions causes them to kind of be closed up, and all of a sudden, boom, snaps and becomes anger or becomes something
Right.
else. Right? So I don't know where I was going with this, but I basically want to kind of say that it's difficult for guys to sometimes open up. But one of the things that that I could certainly suggest during this time is for guys to kind of like take a step back. You're at home, especially if you're living at home by yourself or with a couple of other people. So take some time off for yourself and read and understand about yourself more. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, well, I know on my personal journey, and I'm not a guy, but just anyone who's going through a journey, gosh, research is so, I mean, it was such a big part of me. And how I learned about brain plasticity, and I learned about, alternative healing outside of my therapy. But I researched and I read books and I picked those. Yeah. I watched YouTube videos and, yeah,
Absolutely. And the male brain, they say really kind of starts kicking in and kind of fully developing kind of like later than females, generally around kind of like 20, 21, 22 years old. And for some of us, especially when you kind of go through traumatic experiences, it can really stunt that growth and development of the brain. And obviously there's tons of research out there that you could look at, as you said, with whether it's YouTube or just online sources. And that's the beauty
right.
of the internet now,
Yeah.
is that one could take this time to kind of learn more about the plasticity of their brain, how we can reshape some of those negative cognitions that we have of ourselves in our brain. Again, just going back to the whole attachment process of relationships and guys, for some guys who want to understand themselves more, just take a deep dive into the way they were brought up. Did they kind of resort to their own methods of identifying with their emotions? For example, if they didn't get that sort of support from their parental role models, their caregivers, how did they manage their emotions? Did they kind of just avoid it? Did they crave it more, or did they try to resolve the issues within themselves, whether it's through substance or turning to other means, right? And, however their coping mechanisms were as young adults, that basically transfers into your adulthood. And I think what I'm getting at with guys in general is that, we need to kind of take that step back. And now is a perfect time. Really, now is a perfect time to kind of take a step back and self-evaluate. You talk about self-care in this particular podcast episode, and what I want to kind of segue into is that self-care is about looking after yourself and making sure that your needs are met, and to gain some clarity on who you are, who you want to be. What better way than to take this time to do some reading?
Yeah, I love this. And I love, no one's addressed this yet, about learning about yourself and taking this opportunity, yes, to just kind of sit with yourself.
Sit with yourself, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Meditation is something that I've been doing a lot of over this last several weeks, I guess. I don't know, time's kind of standing still, but
right. What day is it?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, it's like they all kind of blend in together. It doesn't matter if it's Sunday or Thursday.
Well, that's so funny. I saw somebody posted a funny, because the humor part of it is keeping me grounded. But I saw a funny meme on Facebook, and it was, like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But it was just, everything was scratched out, and it just said day, 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 day.
It totally makes sense, doesn't it?
It's like, oh my gosh, it's true.
Yeah. It is so true. It is so true. I guess time is kind of irrelevant in some ways.
Right. Which, again, that's such a great point, in that because there aren't all of these outside pressures of, oh, I have to work, and oh, I have to, hit the gym, and oh, I have this to do, I have to make dinner, I have to do the laundry, that time has slowed down.
It has. There's certainly.
Yeah. So we can take this opportunity, like you said, to do some self-discovery work.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is time of which we'll never get back, in terms of hopefully we'll never get back this kind of event where
right.
we have so much time for ourselves. Self-discovery, little things that like learning how to cook a lot more, trying a whole variety of different recipes. I was getting at explaining to you about meditation as well. Working a lot with the inner child. I've been doing a lot of inner child meditation, kind of making sure that I self-soothe the anxious child that was inside of me, that was deprived, if you will, of certain needs, emotional needs. Those are things that we can do. I mean, some of us, will say, well, that's something I kind of don't want to do. But it's like, well, what else are you going to do, right? There's only so much cleaning that you could do. And there's only so much, Netflix that you could watch, right? So.
Yeah. And sometimes it seems to me that sometimes when someone's saying, oh, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that, is probably most likely maybe because they know that that's what they need to be doing. There's something there that needs work.
Yeah. And it is unfortunate during this time. I mean, there's a lot of counseling services have kind of just stopped. I guess they're not, obviously the face-to-face, which is so important, I feel. Some of them will do, live video, remote chatting, or on the phone chat. I've done some counseling sessions on the phone. Explore those options too. And you're right. There's a lot of individuals like, I don't think it's for me. And that, you're right. It just points them in the direction that if you're feeling that resistance, that ego, that means that there's probably something that you should be addressing or need to address. And it's, I don't know, just to be blunt with guys, especially, just, bite the bullet. What else are you going to do? Learn something about yourself. Learn something about your past, right?
Right.
that might affect in how you are with your present day relationships, right?
Right. Yeah, great point. Well, and I'm glad you brought up the mental health professionals, and that, as we do start to dive into this type of self-discovery and research on ourselves, that certainly, if anything starts to arise that becomes uncomfortable, or if you just feel, I mean, I can't tout mental health professionals enough. I certainly have utilized them on my healing journey, EMDR for 4 years, along with other therapists. So certainly reach out. And I know quite a few of the guests I've had on who are therapists are doing Zoom,
Yeah.
therapy sessions with their clients. So, and I think new ones many are taking new ones on because they know that people need the help, but they can't go
Yeah.
face to face, right?
Yeah, I've booked a few counseling sessions myself again because I have the time now. Why not?
Yeah.
And they're willing to do it on the phone. It's not as effective for me personally, but I've only tried it, once or twice, and I think that I have to kind of make sure I keep an open mind about that. And learning different forms of therapy, like you mentioned, EMDR, CBT. Although EMDR might be a little tricky remotely because you kind of have to touch it.
Right. Yeah, I don't even know if anybody's doing EMDR remotely.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too. One of the things that was explained to me by my counselors to explore narrative exposure therapy as well. So exposure therapy, generally helping with trauma victims, kind of doing imaginative forms of therapy as they walk you through. And you're familiar with all this. So a narrative one would be potentially very effective for someone like myself who's gone through several different events in his life with varying degrees of trauma. So like keeping an open mind about those things and just wanting to try it now. It's like, if I don't do it now, when the world resumes back to its normal state, probably going to shelf that even more, right? Like not tackle it. So why not?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love it. All right. So any other self-care or other care strategies that you'd like to address?
Try to stay busy with, obviously everyone's kind of doing home repairs and cleaning up and stuff like that. It's funny because I was messaging my book friends and it's like, what are you guys doing when you're bored, right? And they're like, how can you be so bored, Jason? I mean, there's so much cooking, cleaning, looking after the kids, walking the dog. And I'm thinking, I live in a small 800 square foot apartment. I took them on the grand tour with my video phone. It's like, okay, this is what I have to clean. In like 5 minutes, this is all done. There's only so much cooking I can do. I've done enough meal planning to last me for the next year. So
yeah.
And there's not a whole lot of repairs I could do right now, and I'm not a handy person by any stretch. So other ideas, obviously, a lot of people are catching up on their latest TV programs, but for me, it's learning about yourself, taking an interest in something. I've been trying to research online different online courses that you could take to kind of learn about things that you're interested in, and they're offering so many that are free now from various universities. I picked up one yesterday evening. I've been researching this on mental health and understanding the behavior patterns of mental health, whether mental health is created from the nature or the nurture kind of model, if you will, right? And I personally have my own opinion on that. I believe it's a little bit of both, but it's kind of interesting to learn about both sides of the coin. So that's offered by the University of Liverpool and started it yesterday. It's a 6-week kind of program, if you will. So it's been pretty engaging. So I'm kind of looking forward to the weeks on it, but I got to pace myself too, Teri, because I find if I start diving into something, I could finish it like in a day or two.
Right.
So I'm going to have to stretch it out a little bit. So I'm glad that we have this podcast right now because it's actually something that keeps me busy too. So.
Well, good. Yeah. And I love that because we just had this conversation at dinner the other night. How funny that's the whole nature versus nurture thing. And we were discussing it as a family. So I'm going to have to go check that out for sure.
What's your opinion on that?
Well, again, I think it's a mix of both, that I think we are predisposed to certain things. And when if triggered, if that then certain reactions will arise based upon nature.
Yeah.
But also nurture can certainly curb that and, you know, build resilience and a very loving and kind environment. So yeah, I certainly think it's a
Yeah,
combination.
the resilience piece is a big one on that, and we could
Yeah.
get a whole discussion on this, because obviously uh, each of us as individuals, based on our biological model inside, if you will, would suggest that some of us are a little bit more resilient than others, given the circumstances, given the social environment that we're put in, right?
Right.
So resilience is a big play on that. But it's interesting just watching that a couple of the videos in that online course, because they interview various professors at the University of Liverpool, and how some of them actually believe it's one extreme over the other.
Wow.
Yeah, and they make some compelling arguments on it. So it's kind of fascinating. But like you, I'm kind of a believer that it's definitely both. But you know, I guess going to learn more about it.
Yeah. Well, I think you consider like epigenetics and, yeah, I mean, there's just so many things, factors that come in, generational trauma and, you know, how we
Yeah,
inherit trauma. And so then it becomes, well, yeah, then if you're inheriting it, then there is a nature part of it. But
yeah,
then comes the nurture part of it, is that um, you can process it and
yeah.
release it and not let it have a negative impact on you. So yeah, it's
Exactly.
fascinating. Yeah.
Exactly. And then just to throw in a curveball into all this, there's the discussion of free will.
Oh, right. Right.
Where's that fall in, right?
You're right.
We truly have
Exactly.
free will.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We could do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah, I know. Fascinating stuff.
For sure. All right. So how do people find you and get a hold of you?
Yeah. So can I hold up my books?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got two books. The first one is called Living with the Dragon, Healing 15,000 Days of Abuse and Shame.
Yeah.
You could find that on Amazon. You could visit my website. It's called imjustjason.com. And this one is kind of a memoir and personal development book on kind of talks about my journey from a youth growing up here in Vancouver, Canada, as a Asian male, and growing up in an abusive home, and how I've been able to kind of reshape that through a lot of work. And it's one thing to be reading, but if we don't do the work, we don't practice those
Right.
skills that we learn, we just have ideas. We have to execute those ideas into actions. And my second book is, as I mentioned, it's a little bit more lighthearted. It's called Living with the Cat: The 9 Biggest Reasons Why Your Life Sucks. It's shorter.
I love
easier
that
read.
book.
Yeah, you love it. Thank you. It's a little bit more whimsical. It takes a look at kind of my life experiences and kind of pokes fun at myself. It's a little bit of self-deprecating humor, because I figure, and I've learned this over the years, Teri, and you've been an inspiration to me, is that humor is certainly a sign. It's a litmus test of our healing, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're able to kind of laugh at ourselves and laugh at kind of the situations that we're in. It sucks, the situations that we experience, but at the same time, it's like we could kind of laugh at ourselves. It is kind of a sign of healing, is it not?
Yeah, for sure. And I love, you know what sticks with me out of that book, because I read the, talking about the second one, is the clump of you in the boot.
Yeah, the boot.
I don't know why that sticks in my head, but I loved it so much. Like it just resonated with me. And I remember like cackling laughing as I read it. So
yeah, my walking boot, I busted, for those who don't know, I busted my Achilles tendon back in 2009. And just, I was in a walking boot for about, almost a year. And my friends wanted to go night clubbing. And
that was it.
I'm walking there with this big walking boot, and it's just awkward. That's funny. I could laugh.
Oh my gosh. Well, I just love the way you write. And it was just, I mean, it was such a great, easy read. And, but resonated too, because your cat gives great advice.
My cat gives great advice.
So.
Brilliant. I wish she was, she's sitting on the couch.
That's awesome. Well,
I want to, Teri, I also want to share a couple of other books, not by me, obviously.
Sure.
I wouldn't do my books any justice if I didn't mention some of these other books that have brought so much inspiration to me, because they really were the catalyst in my healing process. So this one is called It Wasn't Your Fault. by Beverly Engel. And again, it talks about being compassionate, self-compassionate for yourself and what you've endured growing up in an abusive home, whether it's sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse.
Right.
It's an easy read, but it contains a lot of great exercises and tools that I really recommend. This is perhaps one of my first books that I read in my healing journey. Another one, which I cannot speak highly enough of, is called Becoming the Kind Father by Calvin Sanborn. Really easy read, particularly for guys, Teri. I really want to encourage this because it talks about providing yourself with the kind father that you didn't get growing up. You know how some dads can certainly, my dad was one of those guys where it's like, you shall do it this way or whap, kind of thing. And having no space for emotional availability, no space for talking about feelings or problems. The kind father has helped me restore a lot of that by providing it for myself. And again, there's little simple tools and exercises in here. Really highly recommend this one for guys. Okay. And last but not least, certainly a whole bunch of million other books are great, but everyone knows Louise Hay. You can heal your life. Yeah. So again, I recommend picking those ones up. Again, this time off, do a lot of reading, do a lot of self-practice, and why not, right? What else is to do?
Yeah, agree. And I have Louise's book as well in my collection. Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
Your bookshelf must be like
massive. Right. I know. When I give presentations, I try to pick the couple of books, and oh my gosh, it's so hard because they've just all helped me in some way.
Yeah.
I get it. So, all right. Well, Jason, I always love talking with you. I just, love your energy.
And we will meet someday.
Yes.
Because obviously we couldn't meet in Cincinnati, but maybe in Charleston, in South Carolina.
Yes, maybe somewhere in South Carolina, exactly. Just not at the Stanley Hotel. So
no, not far away from that. Yeah.
That's right. No twins, red rum. All right. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us today on this Facebook Live. And remember, if you want to see more of these Facebook Live interviews, just go to the video section, either on the left side if you're on a computer or up at the top. You kind of have to scroll over if you're on your mobile device. But also you can go to my YouTube channel for previous podcasts like mine and Jason's. You can go to Spotify, Pandora, iTunes, Deezer, pretty much Google the Healing Place podcast, and you'll find those episodes. So, all right, everyone, until next time, remember, be gentle with yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye.